Film Review, Movies, Music, Culture, Politics, Society podcast, interviews, movie reviews, and more. Live Sundays at 5:30 p.m. on Facebook at Crazon Dion.
Hey everybody, this is Lunell, the original bad girl of comedy. I'm here at the Link Promenade in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, and you're watching the Film Review.
Here we are, people, with another great episode of the Film Review. Movies, music, culture, politics, and society. This is our 100th episode.
Wow.
That's 100 or 100, how you looking at it. The 100th episode, people, the 100th episode of the Film Review, movies, music, culture, politics, and society. We are the husband and wife team. I'm Crazy D.
I'm Tracy.
And we review movies, music, culture, politics, and society. And you can see us live streaming right now on the Film Review Live channel on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. We're also on another popular social media site, live streaming, where we originally started, right? And we're also on Blog Talk Radio, the chime-in line, in case you want to call in and communicate on our 100th episode, 213-943-3358. That's 213-943-3358. And do we have a jam-packed show?
It's fitting, because this is a good show.
Yeah,
we're reviewing some really, really good films.
Some really good films. As you know, we're going to be reviewing Who Killed Malcolm X, right? That's that new Netflix original docu-series, right? Yeah. We're going to be talking about, of course, Sonic.
Right.
We're going to be talking about Blumhouse's Fantasy Island.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about a personal favorite.
Yes.
The Photograph. Yes. So we've got a lot to talk about. This has been a real interesting Valentine's Day weekend.
Yeah, it has been.
You know,
quite interesting.
Quite interesting, just to say the least about it, right? So let's get started here. Let's get started.
Well, first of all,
go ahead.
Nicki Minaj, her song "Yikes" is nice.
Yeah. Let's start with some music, because there's been some new music releases that came out, right? Also, people, if you really want to hear some great hip hop music that has the hip hop bona fides, you know, if you watch, of course you do, the Film Review Music Review show, you know, on there I lay out what the hip hop bona fides is in episodes 1 through 3. I repeat it, so in the later episodes I don't have to repeat it. So go back and watch episodes 1 through 10 of the Film Review Music Review show, and you will see what makes great hip hop, what hip hop bona fides is, and what type of lyrics have to be said. But for great hip hop bona fides, Roddy Ricch's Antisocial.
Oh yeah, his album is nice.
That's right, his album is nice, right? And we want to shout out to Abdul Rahim Mohammed. You know, he reacted to my comment about coming on tonight to review Who Killed Malcolm X. He gave it a heart on Twitter. If you're not connected to me on Twitter, it's real simple. It's during the DVD days that I came up with the handle, and it's Crazy D DVD. When I used to author DVDs before everything went digital. Crazy D DVD on Twitter. Also on the IG game. If you're not following us on the IG, you're missing out on a lot of different topics and subtopics that we talk about. Movie for Life Girl.
Right.
That's her.
And movie reviews, because I mean, we don't quite review them, but we kind of give you
a
taste of our opinion.
Yeah.
After seeing
the film. So it's Movie Girl for Life. That's number 4, the numeral 4, Life.
Right.
And Crazy D film dude. So make sure that you follow both of those profiles on IG and Crazy D DVD on Twitter.
Right.
All right. So let's see what else we want to do. Like you said, you talked about the Nicki Minaj record. Okay.
Yeah, Yikes is a good song. I mean, of course, her lyrical skills jump out.
Yes.
The music is nice. It's nice. So now, I'm waiting for her album. I'm looking forward to hearing her album. But I don't know. It's just weird. So Nicki Minaj, she announced that she would be doing the album. And then all of a sudden, everyone else,
wants to come out and say they're doing the
album also. So I'm just
right,
like, okay.
Right.
But hey, follow the leader, right?
Okay. So, people, there are a couple of shows on OWN that we're not going to review, but we're just going to tell you should be watching these shows, right? In the blurbs,
right.
Cherish the Day. It's an anthology, right?
Yeah.
It's starring Sosha, I can't even pronounce her last name, Rockumore. That's what it is. Sosha Rockumore, Evan Fisher, and Cicely Tyson is also in the piece, right?
Right.
But it's Alano Miller plays Evan Fisher. Let's get that right?
Okay.
Can't read my own chicken stretch. Brings the feeling one has when first meeting, dating your soulmate.
Yeah.
So definitely watch this. This is another creation by Ava DuVernay.
Yeah.
And it's on OWN TV, right?
Yeah, they really do a good job capturing like the emotions.
The emotions.
Like the stages that you go through when you first start, like when you meet someone, when you start dating. You're kind of like insecure as far as not sure what you should and shouldn't say, protecting your emotions. You don't want to offend them. So I mean,
but you don't want to be offended.
Exactly, and she does a really great job, Ava DuVernay.
So what's great about the show is it's an anthology. So that means time will pass in this relationship. Like when you first meet them, it's like a year before they meet again, and then in the next episode, it's down the road a year later.
Yeah.
And so it goes on, and then
nice.
each season is going to be a different couple.
Right.
So that's
what I love about that show is that's different.
It's different.
I don't think that any other show. I better drink some water. I'm thirsty. See, that's why you have to stay hydrated. It's been a long day.
It's been
okay. So I don't think any other show, has ever done anything like this. I mean, where you have the relationship, and you have the characters like the years jumping or months jumping. I mean, really nice. I mean, it's a nice touch.
Yeah, I think
nice
so
touch.
too. I think so too.
Yeah.
So let's look at this. Another show to watch. Executive produced by 50 Cent on ABC is For Life, right?
Oh, yes, excellent.
Nicholas Pinnock
Right.
is the starring role of Aaron Wallace.
Right.
Joy Bryant, you remember her from Get Rich or Die Trying, the movie.
As well as she's been in so many
other
other
films.
films.
Know her.
When you see her, I really think of that film the most. Yeah, when you see
Marie.
Right.
Tyler Harris plays Jasmine, right?
Yeah.
And Dorian Missick plays Jamal. And then 50 Cent, they didn't list who 50 Cent plays, but he makes an appearance in the show down the road. But this is excellent. The premise is set up beautifully in the first episode, and it's a weekly episodic series.
Based on a true story. Amazing story.
The opening episode of the episodic gem, executive produced by 50 Cent, exposes some uncomfortable truths for life. That's what we'll say about that. All right, people.
But you know what? First, before we move on, I need to say, okay, so we reviewed Briar's Patch.
Yes, we
previous
did.
episode.
We did.
And I feel the same about For Life, as far as it's like you feel like you're watching a movie. So it's written so well, and the cast is great, the acting is great. So I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is ABC, So, and you're like, okay, it's over with already. I'm expecting 2 hours because it feels like you're watching a film.
That's right. So the two shows, Cherish the Day and For Life. Make sure that you check these out. One is on ABC 4
Right.
Live, and then Cherish the Day is
It's
on
OWN,
OWN Network,
yes.
right?
Yep.
People have a way of bouncing back, even though they're having difficulties in the media right now. But their thing keeps going on and on. So that's
You know what? And Cherish the Day. I love the music.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Sade,
so,
you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, but no, the whole soundtrack isn't just
Right.
Sade.
Right.
But it puts you in the feel of what you would be listening to
during that period.
in that period. Right. All right, people.
And
so,
it also introduces you to new music, also.
Yeah, it does. And so listen, and classic music.
Yeah.
I mean, they really put
Combination
something
of
into it.
everything.
Yeah. That's a high
Old
budget.
school. Yeah.
People. Okay. Jussie Smollett.
Okay.
Indicted by a special prosecutor. Like I said on my Twitter, Crazy D DVD,
Right.
he should cop a mental illness. He should cop to mental illness because something is definitely going wrong.
Yeah.
To have
Yeah.
done something like that. Like
Yeah.
something is definitely going wrong.
Yeah.
And he needs to cop to that and,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, because instead of, well, we talked about this with R. Kelly also, though.
Right.
I mean, maybe the best treatment for them would be mental health, kind of like with the opioids epidemic.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of just throwing
Join
them
jail
in
time.
jail,
Because
give them some mental health.
Because obviously R. Kelly's situation is something mental.
Right.
It's not something criminal.
Right.
So he should be put into a place where
he
he
can
can
get help.
talk this out.
Right.
We just finished watching that movie about Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, yeah.
And how he was acting
Honey
out.
Boy.
And they sent him to psychiatry instead
Yeah.
of the criminal justice system to
Right.
roll out what made him tick
Right.
to be acting out on such a
Right.
high level.
Right.
And I think that's the same thing
Yeah.
that should happen with R. Kelly.
Right.
Honestly,
And Jussie Smollett.
And
Also.
Jussie
Juicy Smollett.
That's what they call him, but I wouldn't call him.
Isn't
I
it
wouldn't
Juicy?
call him
How do you pronounce his name? Is spelled
It's
Jussie,
but it's
S-S-I.
Jussie. It's
Smollett.
Jussie Smollett,
Right.
not Juicy.
Oh.
Because
Okay, so he deserves. He needs clearly. It was a mental breakdown with him also because he didn't harm anyone either, right?
No, he didn't harm. Well,
So-
that's in the eyes of the beholder if R. Kelly harmed anyone.
No, I'm talking about Jussie Smollett.
Right. But you said he didn't harm anybody either, and
I'm
it's
talking
all-
about Jussie Smollett didn't harm anyone.
No, he didn't harm.
Well, but R. Kelly,
he
there's
harmed the
layers
Chicago Police
to that.
Department.
Okay,
right?
so let's not
The
go
CPD.
into. Okay, so I'm sure many people
Shouldn't it be the
have stories to
CHPD?
tell about the Chicago Police Department and innocent people being harmed. So let's not even go there. But
They harmed them. They waste their time. It was other cases that they usually don't solve anyway, that they needed to have the manpower on to solve, right? I'm just saying.
can't let one get away, can we?
We can't let one get away.
Anyway,
All right, people. So further in the blurbs, as we go further, right? Bloomberg
okay.
is running for president. I'm sure that is no revelation
Speaking
to
of-
anyone.
Post-traumatic stress disorder. Stop and frisk
Stop it first.
every
Let me-
damn day.
listen.
A young, black men, Latino men,
worry
Indian
about
men,
black
any
men. I worry
men
about
with
black
a dark complexion.
How about black men?
Look, yeah, but going back and forth every day, worrying about going to school. Because didn't I see a child being a teenager?
Years.
I mean, that's post-traumatic stress disorder.
He
Are you
apologized
kidding
before
me?
he ran. Right?
Okay, so didn't Bill Clinton apologize for slavery? But does that make it okay?
Well, I think they are looking for elbow room, but we're gonna get to that. Look, people.
Yeah.
Bloomberg is telling American blacks who he is, but are American blacks listening? Crime has to do, now listen now, crime has to do with the lack of jobs. The crackdown on illegal immigration has opened the job opportunities for American blacks, to find a job, right? Now that might be That might be something that was unintentional by Trump's policies, but the Trump policy is different than the Democrat policy, which they are strictly for illegal immigration. Now, not even just immigrants, because like we told you before last week, Barbara Jordan had already told us that back in the 90s with the Jordan report that immigration was a problem for black people, right? And so now the Democrats are totally on illegal immigration. You have to go back to our previous show, 99. We laid that out. We're not going back. We're going to keep moving forward, 2020. Right? Weighing the importance. Let's weigh the importance of what's going on. Bloomberg stop and frisk to remove guns from quote-unquote minorities. More police. Kind of like Clinton in the 90s with the crime bill, right? 3 strikes, more police on the street. Trump not allowing minorities in his building properties to live. So-called minorities. Now, I'm putting my quote-unquote minorities, right? In his buildings property to live. Add that was at the behest of his white clientele. Now, when I say white, I'm not just talking about people who would be classified away. I'm talking about people who have the white mentality, okay? Because now I will throw in the Indian people who didn't go through chattel slavery here, and they come in and they could be darker than me, but be considered white, right? So the white mentality, right? Are we able to weigh which is worse for American blacks? One, you were thrown up against the wall, you were searched, right? Because there's levels to bigotry and racism.
Some people were not just, thrown against the wall, that's harsh enough, but were
incarcerated.
Some say that, were like touched
inappropriately,
slammed, injured, heads knocked around. I mean, and these were people of all ages.
Right?
Yeah.
And
young, old,
right? And they did this to these people, right? To black people, right?
I'm sure men and women, right?
Men and women, right? They wouldn't tell you that, right? Okay. So, if Trump is a racist, we just weighing, then
what does that make
Bloomberg has to be the grand dragon, right? Fear isn't a good reason to vote, right? Fear is not a good reason to vote or to caucus, right? Or to endorse. Bobby Rush, former Black Panther, endorsed Bloomberg. Did Rush forget the Black liberation theology? Which we're going to be talking about that, right? That's our topic for tonight, about Black liberation theology. Did he forget what the Black Panther stood for? He endorses a man who believes black people are minorities, right?
And he didn't apologize until he decided to run.
Right? And the definition of a minority in legal and government terms, he doesn't believe that black people, American blacks, can take care of themselves. So thus and so, he said that, we have to get out there and do something that they can't do. Take the guns, disarm them of the guns,
right,
so that they can remain safe, right?
Right.
Let's put the minority classification to rest, though.
Right.
Always remember, those who did the work are the ones who invent inventions which make easier and not endless toil happen while doing the work. Right. Here are some examples that I have right here that we're going to bring up real quick. This is very important that we understand the difference between people who did the work and those who profited from the work and still profit from the work. So it's very important that we stay with this. Now, let me bring this up real quick, and we're going to bring this up so that you can see it right here. All right. Now, drop this down.
Okay.
All right, people. These are black inventions by black inventors. And I'm going to go through a few, but you can see that this is a whole list, and we have this on the Crazy D Film Dude profile on IG, on Instagram, right? Air conditioning unit. Right. Frederick M. Jones. The air conditioning unit.
Right.
What were they doing? They were just being hot, and they couldn't figure that out. The almanac, Benjamin Banneker. Right. When you want to know what the weather is going to be 20 years out, you go to an almanac, or the next year, and you go to the almanac, and that was created by Benjamin Banneker because he was putting in the work, right? Auto cut-off switch. Okay. Granville T. Woods, right? Auto fishing device. Yep. George Cook. You know the Lincoln commercial where you see the Lincoln lawyer. He's out there. What's his name? I can't think of his name. Matthew McConaughey. Right. And he goes out there and he sets up this fishing rod in the ice. And then when the fish catches the hook, a flag goes up. That is an auto fishing device.
Oh, okay.
Baby buggy.
Okay.
William H. Richardson.
Wow.
Right?
Yep.
Biscuit cutter. Alexander P. Ashbourne. Okay. Blood plasma bag. Okay. Charles Drew.
Yes.
Chamber commode. Thomas Elkins. Okay. Right?
So that allows you to flush the toilet.
That's at the top and you pulled it.
Right.
Right.
So people, what did they do? Dump the poop in the ground?
They used to take it and dump it outside in a hole in a ditch and then cover it up. But here's an invention. American black inventors, right?
Well, you can have a toilet in the house now, huh?
Yes. Clothes dryer. George T. Sampson.
Okay.
Curtain rod. Samuel R. Scorotron.
Right.
Right? Curtain rod support. William S. Grant.
Yep.
Doorknob. Osborne Dorsey.
Okay.
Door stop. Osborne Dorsey. What were they doing to open doors before the doorknob came around?
The doors just, there wasn't a door.
There was a door. Egg beater. Willie Johnson. Okay. Electric, it says lamp bulb, but electric light bulb.
Right.
Lewis Latimer created the filament. Like if you watch a movie about with Spencer Tracy, they have the black person in it, but they have him as a little boy. Okay. Lewis Latimer was a contemporary.
Okay.
Of Alexander Graham.
Graham Bell.
No, that's the telephone.
Yeah, Edison.
Edison, right? He was a contemporary, and he created the filament that allowed the light bulb to stay on. Okay. The light bulbs did not stay on; they always burnt out. And here came the man who fixed. So he's really the creator of the long-lasting light bulb that wouldn't go out just like that, right? Okay. The elevator.
Okay.
Alexander Miles.
Right.
Eye protector. Powell Johnson.
Okay.
An eye protector. You know the goggles that go across the eyes, maybe across the glasses now. A black man invented that. Why? Because they were out there in the fields. They were out there doing carpentry in the barn and doing steel work in the barn. And they needed protection. And these are the people. So always remember the people who create are the ones who are actually doing the work, which actually built the country. Fire escape ladder. Joseph W. Winters. The fire escape ladder, you know, like you see the old movies and you see the windows and then they have, you walk out on a little steel grade and you lower the ladder down and you come down to safety. That was a black man's invention, right? The fire extinguisher. Thomas Marshall. Folding bed. Leonard C. Bailey. The Folding Bed. Folding Chairs. Nathaniel Alexander.
Wow.
Right? Can you believe this? Can you
Right.
believe that? That's all in this first list right here. And again, you can see this on Crazy D Film Dude.
Right.
Right? Now the next list of people, which I often talk about this all the time, the fountain pen, Walter B. Purvis.
Right.
Furniture caster, David A. Fisher. Gas mask, Garrett Morgan.
Right.
Golf tee, George T. Grant.
Right.
The guitar, Robert F. Fleming Jr. Hairbrush, excuse me.
Okay.
Linda O. Newsom.
Okay.
Hand stamp, Walter B. Purvis. See, Walter B. Purvis was inventing a lot of stuff, right?
Right.
Ice cream scoop, Alfred L. Kroll.
Okay.
Insect destroyer gun, Albert C. Richardson. You know, when you see the different commercials and they had that long gun and it's squirting out the chemical to kill.
Yeah.
Black man invented that, right? Ironing board,
Okay.
Sarah Boone.
Okay.
Keychain, Frederick J. Loden.
Right.
Lantern, Michael C. Harvey.
Right.
Lawn sprinkler, John H. Smith.
Right.
Lemon squeezer,
Okay. Wow.
right? John Thomas White.
Okay.
The lock, Washington A. Martin. Lubricating cup, I believe that's in Cars,
Okay.
Elijah McCoy. Lunch pail, James Robinson. Mailbox, Paul L. Downing.
Right.
The mop, Thomas W. Stewart.
Okay.
Peanut butter, George Washington Carver.
Yeah.
Pencil sharpener, John L. Love. Right? Can you believe this? Now that's the whole second list, right? And again, you can see this where? On Crazy D Film Dude on Instagram. Make sure you follow that page because we give all kinds of information. We're coming down to the home stretch. This is showing you that how could a group of people, American blacks, if they were truly classified, if they were truly what the classification is, minority, some people who could not take care of themselves, how could they create all this? And who was really not being able to take care of themselves until these adventures came out? So who's really the minority? But we're going to get to that. Record player, I always love this because I'm a DJ, right? And so the tone arm, the record player arm, Joseph H. Dickerson. The rolling pin, John W. Reed. Shampoo headrest. That's when you go to the beautician. And it's the headrest. When you lay back and you're getting your hair washed. Charles Orwin Bailiff. This can't. Cars cannot run without this, even with the new technology. Spark plug.
Wow.
Edmund Berger. The stethoscope that we put it in your ears and you listen to the heart, right? Thomas A. Carrington. Straightening comb, Madam C.J. Walker. That's coming out in March, right? The street sweeper. Granville T. Woods. Thermostat control. When you go to your thermostat, and you control either how cool it is or how hot it is
in your home.
In your home, that's Frederick M. Jones. Traffic light, Garrett Morgan, and the tricycle, Matthew A. Cherry. So you see, people, how could a group of people who were classified as minority be able to do all of this, right? If they were truly minority, right? So remember what I said. Always remember, those who did the work are the ones who invent inventions which make easier and not endless toil the jobs they have to do. I gave you the example. American and black inventors that prove American blacks were never a minority, right? The minority is the group of people, is a group of people who oversaw. The minority is the group of people who oversaw the free labor, but never really worked themselves. Those are actually the minorities, right?
Right.
America will be doing nothing without just us.
Right.
Look how nervous they get when the end of integration is discussed. Take the reaction of Laura Ingraham, not Ingram, but Laura Ingraham.
Was that her name?
When Benjamin Watson talked economics, college, and sports. So let's bring this up real quick, people. We're gonna make this case real quick because it's very important to make this case. So let me bring this up real quick and listen to this real quick.
While you're bringing that up, right?
Uh-huh.
Because science is very important.
Very
right?
important.
Healthcare, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Hale Williams, right? He founded the first black-owned hospital in America and performed the world's first successful heart surgery in 1893. And he's the son of a barber, Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. He was the fifth of 5 children. So he's the founder of the first black-owned hospital, and he performed the world's, again, first successful heart surgery. And then he's just, you know, we have next week, and we'll go over some more black scientists, inventors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Right. So let's play this real quick,
Okay.
and then we're gonna talk. And I'm gonna stop every now and then to go over it. But let's watch this real quick. This is very interesting. This is Laura Ingram. They call her Laura Ingram, but it's really spelled Laura Ingraham, and Benjamin Watson. So listen to this real quick, and then we're gonna be stopping every now and then to give some commentary over it.
ESPN anchor Jamel Hill created kind of stir with a piece in the Atlantic where she argued that black athletes should stop attending white majority colleges. What's your reaction to this?
Well, I read the article, and when I saw the uproar over it, I read the article, and I agree with her. She had some great points in that article. When you look at the history of HBCUs and you look at the hundreds of thousands of black professionals that have come from these schools over the course of the last several years since they've been created, and you look at what's been lost since integration has happened, what she was saying was simply that athletics is a multi-billion-dollar business. I went to 2 historically white universities, Duke University and University of Georgia, that have a lot of money based on athletics. What she was saying that, look, we're living in a time where there's a big racial wealth gap. The average white family has a net income, a net worth that's 10 times that of a black family. And so if we're able to have some of these athletes that create so much income go to some of these schools, not that white students don't go and students of other ethnicities don't go. We live in a time.
Look, if you notice, if you look at her face, as he's saying that he agrees with Jamel Hill about there being about black athletes should stop going to predominantly black colleges and start going back to the HBCUs.
Right.
Now then you look at Laura Ingram's face. Now she didn't expect. Now what do you expect from a conservative? I don't understand what the conservatives.
Wouldn't she be happy?
Wouldn't she be happy? But let's push on here now. Let's listen to what happens next.
Where everybody can go wherever they want to, but what she was saying simply, if we're trying to pump money and revenue into some of these communities, that there's still this big disparity. This may be a way to do it. Look, she lays it out very, very cleanly, and it's actually something that I agree with. All
right, Benjamin. Well, I think that Duke would have not been thrilled about your not being there, but we'll leave it at that. I mean,
now, see, she gets nervous.
Right.
All of a sudden, she's nervous because I'm sure her producers are in her ear.
Right.
Because they realize
that
American blacks are still the cash cow of this society.
Right.
They're able to have them play free sports. That's why it's tooth and nail art. The NCAA might as well be just the newest version of slavery because they have them playing for free. Now we went to college, and I know how we felt in the dormitory when the cafeterias were closed and you felt hungry, and then you had to use your own money. We used to skip on down to the Subway when Subway had good food before
before it was sold.
Before it was sold and then put into food courts.
Right.
By Romney's company.
Right.
Right. And so we used to skip down there, but you know, it's like. The athletes, you know, they had to depend on the kindness of others because there was no money being spread for them spending their time, and there was no guarantee they're going to get to the NBA or the NFL or any other sport that's being played, right? So let's continue. So she gets real nervous with this, and she says that, you know, Duke would have probably really been upset if they didn't have you there, right? So what is it that Caucasians want? They say they didn't want to be around you, but yet when this man is saying maybe we should just go back to basically end integration, like desegregation is good because you're able to walk where you want to do, shop where you want to shop, drink at water fountains or whatever. Now people have bottled water, so that's really but integration was where people interwove in, and then the businesses were lost. So and different social structure that made the American black neighborhood strong were lost. So let's continue.
The college sports would certainly be a lot different today if we went down a color-coded way of figuring out college admissions. I mean, that's that's resegregating the country. Why do we want that?
Well, no, because segregation, as you know, is government mandated.
Yeah, I get it.
This is not segregation. Yeah. This is if you read the article and see what
I read the article. I read the article. All right, we got to go.
You see there? She was ready. She was ready to get off.
Right.
Right, because here's a black man telling you that maybe integration on that level is not too good.
Right.
For historically black colleges and universities, and maybe we should, because that will become a domino effect. I remember we were doing an episode of Like It Is. Yeah. Rest in peace to Franklin G. Right. We were doing a episode, right? And Rodney Smith was on. He was running for the congressional seat, right? Right. And I asked him about maybe because Martin Luther King said that I may have integrated my people into a burning house. Right. And I said, well, maybe desegregation shouldn't end, but integration should end. Right. Right? Right. We got a phone call. Let's see what this phone call. We're coming to 314. Let me bring you up. 314. Are you there? Is this Pataki?
Yeah, it's Pianki.
Hey, Pianki. That's right. I got it right. Pianki. How you doing?
And turn the volume up a little bit. There we go.
There we go.
Now, Martin Luther King his dealing was down in the South. The things that were going on in the South wasn't going on in the North. I don't know why the people he was talking about that he brought into a burning house. That's a question.
Well,
he made a comment that blacks should be enrolled in historical black universities. Now, the number of historical black universities is going to be down around 25. So they say around the next 5 to 7 years. And you only have, at any given time, 5 schools that have a graduation rate above 50% in 6 years, meaning that the students are paying 50% more just to graduate. Mm-hmm. And it's not the students' fault, because where they come from, they're not being prepared. That's where the big problem lies.
So you say
you read article after article that black students are overrepresented in low-paying majors. Well, if you are in a low-paying majors like health services and administration and childhood education, how can you have discretionary monies to pay off the loan that is required to get degrees in those fields, or
ESPN.
give back to a college in order to increase the endowment.
That's true. But
So those are questions that have to be asked.
Okay, so let's go back for a minute. You said that in the North, what was happening in the South wasn't happening in the North?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, have you ever seen that footage when Martin Luther King went into Chicago?
Yeah.
And the not only the Nazis, but the Confederates came out, and he said that in the South is one thing, but up here in Chicago in the North is a total different animal, which is even more vicious than what you see in the South. So Betsy Smith.
They didn't want no people. They didn't want their marching going on in their community.
Betsy Smith
Did
said.
you see what went on? Did you see what went on in the vicinity of Ferguson?
Yeah, absolutely. But that's a sundown town, right? And so there's certain.
Blacks been living in the Ferguson for decades.
I know, but it was still a sundown town, meaning that blacks had to be off the street at dusk. Don't get caught when it's nightfall. Huh?
Blacks was the major population in Ferguson. Blacks moved out in Ferguson decades ago. I guess you can say probably in the late 60s, after they left North St. Louis because of crime and other elements, property value, all those things. They moved into the outlying communities like Berkeley, Ferguson, Castle Point, now they're in Spanish Lake. They in those out in Ferguson, Florissant. Now they in those outlying areas. Blacks moved into Ferguson decades ago, and they had a nice community. Housing values up, pristine lawn. Ferguson, Florissant had pretty good schools. At first it was Ferguson School District, who combined with Florissant School District because the kid population started dropping. Now, when you had the incident with Mike Brown, blacks started fleeing that area even before that because you had politics that was pushing blacks out of the cities into these outlying areas where blacks was already established. There's an area in about a mile north and west of Ferguson. It's called Barrington Down. It's majority black. That population almost physically drew a line down what's called Vail Avenue, V-A-I-L, where it crosses Hall's Ferry. They told the protesters, you don't come out here. You don't come out here. And police kind of as their air navigation monitor. But no, that goes on in society's period. Now, back during the time when King was marching, and things that they was doing down south wasn't needed because the people were being, oppressed and so forth. But up in the north, you had very little of that, if not much at all. Blacks were going to schools and so on and so on and so on. It's just a different paradigm. Now you got blacks moving back down south. You have a larger population of blacks in this country in the southern states than you do in the northern states. You know why? Because they worked up north, earned good wages, salaries, pensions, and Social Security. Now they're moving back down south where the living is cheap. Expenses is not nowhere near as great as it is up north. So
they also don't have 5G. They don't have 5G. Betsy Smith said something that was very interesting. She said, in the South, the whites want you to work. They can work. You can work alongside them because of obviously cotton, tobacco, and all the other. You can work alongside them, but don't get bigger than them. In the North, you could get big as you want it to be, just don't stay next to me. Don't stand next to me. So it was two different types of mentalities, because that's what Martin Luther King was
I don't know what year they talking about neither.
I mean, well, Jim Crow had been going on since way before the 20s. Bessie Smith is the first $1 million race records seller. They used to call them race records. Right. So Jim Crow kept going all the way up through the 50s, the 60s. Some people say that Jim Crow is on his way back. Right. But the main point is, it was a different mentality, and that's why Martin Luther King was up in Chicago in the first place, because they were battling over fair housing. So not only was he battling with the established leadership there that might want it to just rub shoulders and not necessarily rock the boat, but he was also dealing with people who came out of the woodwork like roaches and expressed themselves: guns, gunfire, Confederate flags, and Nazi symbols.
They want the people moving in their neighborhood. You know, along State Street, you had Cabrini Green style apartment, I guess you call it projects. Like a project after project after project. I remember seeing that when I was a kid, because my auntie, cousins lived in Chicago. They lived on Prairie Avenue, right there, 39th Street. And I had another cousin that lived there near White Sox Stadium.
Okay.
And they had row after row after row, like dominoes, that blacks stayed, well, actually whites started staying in it first. That was a project that came about in the 1950s in order to put bricklayers to work. Those projects had the same thing in St. Louis with Periodico. But here's the thing. We talk about 2020. What needs to be done is to get black kids educated and get them out of these decrepit school systems. I'm telling you. And, you know, I have promoted the National Society of Black Engineers, which started back in the 1970s to get more black involved in the STEM field. This started back in the 1970s by a group of black males. May have had a female, so. And it works. Their goal is to graduate 15,000 black STEM graduates every year. It was cut back from 25,000 because of the present education system. Now, let me say this. They have a national convention once a year, and they have regional conventions during the year. At their national convention, which the next one is coming up next month, and I'm not sure what city it's going to be in, but in the last 3 years, 17 and 18 in Pittsburgh and Kansas City, and 19, it was in Detroit. You had corporations there that was hiring black kids by the hundreds. In 17 and 18, a Midwest company by the name of Northrop Grumman hired 400 black STEM graduates 2 years in a row, 400 plus the other corporations that's there. Last year in Detroit, Lockheed Martin hired over 400, plus the other that was there. They had over 15,000 students there at that convention. So these kids are getting, if you got the degrees that is in demand,
right? But
in order to get the degrees that's in demand, it requires a lot of preparation and study. Now, when you saying something about athletics?
Yeah, I was talking about the Laura Ingraham piece, where the guy told her that maybe integration should end, and it should go back to the historically black colleges, right, and universities.
Well,
and then the money. Huh? What happened? I didn't hear you. Beg your pardon.
Yeah, that integration ain't going in.
Yeah,
you know,
too profitable.
My grandson attends LSU.
Okay.
He plays baseball for the school. We came here in 2014 to look at, we visited the school. He's in gas and petroleum engineering. There's no facility else in the country other than maybe out of Colorado that matches that black schools don't have that type of facility. They put $100 million in that school. Now, you do have some excellent black schools, but, you know, on the whole, it's just not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have schools like Spelman, which is all-girls school. You have to have at least a 25 ACT to get in that school. Those kids are smart. They ain't dumb. You got Tuskegee, which has a research operation program that's going on where they're working with NASA on this Mars mission. And you have Morehouse, which produces a lot of doctors. But when you get beyond them, Fisk and Howard, then you start to have problems because the kids are not prepared. It's not the child's fault. It's that black society is not doing what it should do to its greatest extent. Now, one other thing, too. There are segments in black society. And when you think about this, you would agree. They're about 60 to 70 years behind what your model is for success. Why is that? Because success shows a picture of a functional family, including for real grandparents, not 35-year-old grandparents, for real grandparents. And that takes, just to say the kids, the parents, the grandparents, that there is 60 years to put that back together.
Okay.
Africa is about 160 years behind.
Yeah, you know, I would agree with that. So why are you coming up with? But anyway, look, let's go back to the King thing, because I said that they didn't want people living, and you said they just didn't want them coming into the neighborhoods. Fine. Now, weighing the difference between Bloomberg and Trump, right? And we talked about that a little bit earlier, because this is the American Black Politic segment now, before we get into the films and everything. People are saying that Donald Trump wouldn't let people rent in his properties. Black people couldn't rent in his properties. American blacks couldn't rent in his properties. And I told people, I said, his clientele didn't want black people in the property. So that's one thing, right? So we're looking at that. So weighing the level of severity. Meanwhile, Bloomberg takes a policy like stop and frisk and puts it on steroids, and then stops and frisks and does so many people and causes damage. People actually being incarcerated, people actually being touched inappropriately, people constantly being hassled who are going to school because they fit a description of just the young black male. Which one is more severe to you on the levels of bigotry and racism, and which one really disqualifies the one? Because I believe that Trump is going to be reelected, right? So I'm going to ask you. Go ahead.
Do you respect my age?
I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I respect my elders.
Suppose I said I was 80 years old. Would you respect my age? You were what, 40, 35?
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm a little bit half
right,
plus. I'm half plus 8 of you.
Well, I'm not 80.
Okay. There you go.
Plus, you know, I was a structural steel erector. I put up buildings, my company I own, that failed in 9/11. So one could say I've been pretty successful in the United States.
Okay.
Now, this is what I got to tell you. The best president I've ever seen is Donald Trump. Now, you don't have to believe that, because I don't got past the point of trying to convince people to the point where you put your hand, I'm choking. Do what you want to do. But the best president I've ever seen, the person that stick to what he said he was going to do based on what people said they wanted to see in town hall meetings and rallies, is Donald Trump. Bloomberg was saying those things because he's trying to get black votes.
Right.
The other ones are too. So you can believe it if you want to. It's perfectly fine.
No, I'm asking you which one is more in the severity of bigotry and racism because as American blacks, we have to start weighing the scales out and looking at people. And I always say fear is not a reason to vote or to endorse someone just because they're saying the right things now, because we all know that they're just Dixiecrats, okay? They're just Dixiecrats. And some moved over to the Republican Party. But what I'm saying is, but I'm asking you in your opinion, in your esteemed opinion here, because that's why we talk to you all the time. Because okay, go ahead.
Let me give you an answer. If I was white and you black, and I told you you cannot ride in this car, all right? You can say I'm a racist, right? Or if I threw cold water on you, you say I did it because I'm a racist. I'm white, you black. Okay. What if I'm black and I throw cold water on you? Am I racist?
No, I say that you're I would say you're self-hating.
No, wait a minute.
No, wait a minute. Now, I would say. Let me respond before. Okay, but I'm saying you're self-hating, and you have taken on the mentality of those that oppress, because there are Negroes that do oppress other Negroes. There were Negroes who owned slaves every 50 years after people were freed. They had freed black people who owned slaves. So there is that mentality out there.
You had black people that owned slaves. You had black people that was in the agriculture. For every white immigrant that they sponsored to the United States, they received 50 acres of land. And that's on this side of the ocean. On the other side of the ocean, all kind of things was going on. You had black kings that brought slaves here on Columbus boats to do rice farming in the Carolinas. They don't tell you those things. But what I'm saying is, it's not the color of the skin of the person. It's the act that is the problem.
Right.
Then when I threw cold water on you, that was an act. When he threw cold water on you, that was an act.
Right.
That was the problem.
Yeah, either way. It's an act of hate, because if you're saying that I'm not going to ride in a car with you and you're black, I'm really in both ways. I'm going to take offense equally, because it's an act of hate if I haven't done anything to you. So I'm not too much on the whole color thing anymore. I just wanted to get an answer from you about the degrees. What I'm saying is, I just wanted to get an answer from you about the degrees of bigotry and racism, because people are afraid that somehow Donald Trump is going to put us back in chains, like Biden said way back during Bush, and we're not in chains yet. The only wait a minute. The only people I see in chains still are the ones from the 3 strikes. Those are the ones that I see, the black people I see in the chains. Go ahead.
Let me ask you something about racism.
Okay.
For me to tell you that, sir, I don't want you to date my daughter. And people say, well, that's racism. But it's not against the law. Racism and segregation and discrimination is not against the law until you violate someone's civil rights and carry that out. I mean, what else are you going to do to counter it? They break the law, you sue them. If they ain't broke the law, you can't sue them. When you had a group of parents had a prom in Georgia in 2 or 3 places in private venues, and they said they didn't want no blacks to attend. Well, that's not racism. That's their preference. Because I know of black organizations that don't allow whites to attend. That's what I'm trying to get people to elevate to see. There are black people who don't want to be around white folks at all.
We don't want to do no elbow room. I mean, you know what I'm saying? There are black people who don't want to do elbow room, rub elbows with what? They're just as strong and say that we are who we are and we don't need you.
And guess what? You got blacks that don't want to be around other blacks and whites that don't want to be around other whites.
Exactly.
You got blacks that will not take their kids down in the hood to play down there for a lot of reasons. It might be dangerous for one thing. Right? You got black schools in this country. You got Fairfield, you got Horace Mann, and several of them, I can't think of the name, where the tuition from pre-kindergarten, kindergarten through 12th grade is over $40,000 a year. That is producing a whole different ideology, mindset, class of people. It's nothing you can do. I mean, that's just what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it should be.
It does exist.
Yeah, it does exist. But for the others who don't have that, they have to sooner or later get it together. Right? They have to get it together. They have to get out of them.
What do you think about reparations?
I think that the reparations should be given. That's what I believe. I believe that because it's not just slavery. It's every policy, every law. We don't even have to go back to 1619. We can start at 1865 and go forward in how every policy, every legislation, every backdoor deal, everything for set a certain class of black people back 100 years, right? And so not just slavery. We're talking about people have lived through Jim Crow. They have lived through the lynchings. This is a continuous thing that is put down
today
still today. So yes, reparations should be paid, and we're not even going back to 1619. Okay.
That's what I got to say.
Okay.
You got a problem there because who you gonna collect from, for one thing. Okay, but what about this? What about demanding reparations from drug dealers? They selling drugs in your community, and the implication of those drugs is causing the destruction of families, thus by creating, or should I say, not allowing the process of building families like we talked about earlier to happen.
Okay, I'm ahead of you. Yeah. I'm ahead of you because there's a whole bunch of different people that are going to have to pay. When we're looking at reparations, we're going to have to find out which black families own slaves, which Native American tribes own slaves, which Irish people own slaves, which German, which boom, boom, boom. All of this is going to have to happen. And not only the drug dealer, but the drug creator. We have to go back. It's already proven that crack came in because of the Iran-Contra scandal. So we have to go back. The American government got to pay for destroying families to fund war, right? That's already been proven, right? So this has to go back. And so many different, so it keeps on going back to my premise before. So many different policies, so many different laws. We add in the secret Iran-Contra scandal, the Iran-Contra war. Right. You add that in and funding it using crack. Right. And then on top of that, Reagan did that in the 80s. 10 years later, Clinton signs the 3 strikes, and it takes men out of the street. In the 80s, you turned. Wait a minute. In the 80s. In the 80s, they took noble black women and turned them into strawberries. And then in the 90s, you turn around and you take the men from out of the homes. How do you expect a young black male or a young black female to get educated when there is no father in the home to keep the family structure together? And the American government did that. The American government did that.
You're saying that in order for a woman to get welfare, the man couldn't be in the house. Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm not talking about the welfare argument. I'm talking about crack cocaine. I'm talking about bringing the cocaine I know, but in the 80s, black women who were going to college, black males that were going to college, in the 80s, the United States government brought in the cocaine and then came up with the formula to unleash Ready Rock on the communities, and it turned black women into strawberries. A decade later, the crime bill comes out to wipe the males off. So when we look at it, yes, that is happening, and maybe people don't know why it's happening, and maybe the circumstances of what Trump is doing now by stopping the illegal immigration, and then more black people get jobs, because crime is caused by not having enough job opportunities. Right? So so no matter how that's cut, we're not talking about welfare, we're not talking about none of that. We're talking about cocaine brought in, turned into Ready Rock, turned black women into strawberries. 10 years later, black men are taking out the household. So how you gonna have responsible households when the woman is probably still suffering from the ravages of crack on her brain, and may not still be off of it. Some are, some ain't, but it broke up the whole American family, American black family. And so, yeah, the American government has to pay reparations just for crack. Just for crack. Just for Ready Rock. Just for the cocaine. We can do just those years. That has been a devastation.
The thing is that Maxine Waters had hearings on it. There's nothing to show that the United States government was implicit in doing that. And then here's the big problem. In order to sue the U.S. government, whether you're a group, organization, or a country, the U.S. government has to permit you to sue it. So there's yet another hurdle.
Exactly. That's why.
Walk in the court and say, I'm going to sue the U.S. government. You're going into a U.S. court.
That's right. That's why they have the HR 40 bill, because the government has to admit to its complicity. And so that's what the larger issue is. So I'm not disagreeing with you. But all at the same time, the American government is culpable. The people who were here, let's go back to 1619 and even before. But 1619, the people that were here before 1776 and the Congressional Congress in 1775 and all that, they brought up the
1619 was a different entity. This government we have today didn't come into existence until 1779.
Right, I just said it, but I'm saying 1775, 1776, and then it took a while for it to be ratified, right? But what I'm saying is to you, but even those
arguments. Let me tell you something. People make arguments. I experienced these things.
Okay.
They try to say the U.S. did not profit from slavery.
The
United States did not monetarily profit from slavery. You know why? There was no taxes at that time. Taxes didn't come into existence in 1913.
Individuals I like this discussion here, because that's good and it's intricate. But when people are talking about reparations, like ADOS is talking about reparations, they're talking about the people who were involved in it. Right? And I just, a few minutes ago, I said we have to go through and look at individuals. Maybe some of those families that pay $40,000 a year for kindergarten, maybe some of their families own black bodies. They got to pay.
They found a way to give reparations to the Japanese and to Holocaust survivors, as well as Native Americans.
That's a whole different case with the Japanese. The thing is you talking about, if you talk about slavery, and this thing that ADOS, they talking about how people were treated, so on and so on. Now you complicating the matter, because you bring in all sorts of jury. You got individuals, you got local governments, you got states, And some people want to say the federal government.
Why does it become? Why does it become complicated when we talk about giving reparations to American descendants of slavery? But reparations it wasn't complicated when it had to be given to other groups. But when it's time to give reparations to the people who built this country, all of a sudden we need like the HR 40 bill, and it's too complicated, and there's layers now. But with other groups, it's not complicated.
Well, the United States only gave, that I know of, reparations went to Japanese because they were still living.
They were part and parcel in it, so they did. They gave them Jerusalem and Palestine.
No, they don't. No.
What was that? 19.
Not paid any money toward the Jewish Holocaust.
You know, when you give weapons and you give your military time to protect,
right.
That's money. Time is money. Money is time. Bodies going over there, weapons going over there. That is a form of reparations.
Native Americans.
No, that's a treaty agreement.
Okay, it's still a treaty.
They didn't honor the treaty with us.
Wait a minute. Let's get a treaty then. Or whatever it is, Panaki. Let's get a treaty. Whatever it is. But we don't even have to go back to slavery. We can start with crack.
Let's start today.
We can start with crack.
Well, like I said before, this thing about slavery that has been played out in the courts, and no slave passed on the authority for Africans today, African Americans today, to adjudicate for them. And then too, look at this. Over on the continent of Africa, if the descendants of those Africans receive compensation, those people over there in those tribes are going to put a lien on it because those descendants created crimes and mayhem, which caused them to be shipped out of there in many cases at a time. There's all kind of complications that are going on.
That's good. That's one side of it. That's the oppressive side, but the other side is me and the tribal chief had big beef, so he sold me, or he put me into chains as a slave, and then sold me off like this woman who said her great-great-grandfather was a slave trader. Right? So we got to go back and get. My thing is.
Trying to get restitution.
My thing is. My thing is.
The father follows the child.
Right. So that's why they have to go in, and we have to get restitution from those people. And it's going to be hard because you're going to find out that some people who may not be as successful because maybe they were cheated out of their land in land grabs by Caucasians later may not be as successful, but they own slaves. It's going to get complicated. So I'm with you. I'm totally with you, and I was ahead of that.
About the South.
Huh?
Let's talk about the South. 28% of free blacks own slaves in, say, like New Orleans. 10 to 30,000 were owned by blacks.
Oh yeah, we did a show. We did a show about Cane River and the Creoles. We did that about 4 weeks ago. About a month ago.
Some that owned the slaves actually was mulatto women.
Okay, right.
That goes away from the theory that blacks was, dark-skinned blacks was buying their cousins and relatives. Well, mulattoes did not have an association with dark-skinned blacks.
I know it's one.
All those things have to be taken into account.
I know it's 1/8, 1/3, and half, and all those different octoroons and all that. We did a story about that. I mean, I'm not upset about that. I just want people to pay up. Mm-hmm. That's all. So I mean, I'm not shocked.
What you got to do is build your case and put your facts and that together.
Right. I'm illuminated as far as the fact that it's not just the white thing. It's not just the white thing. It's all people were involved.
I tip my hat to them and hope that they have success in doing what they endeavor on doing. But it's not easy.
Well, it has been great because we got to keep moving with the show, but every time you call up, we get information and we get a dialogue going, and I appreciate you. Yeah. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you also.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Have a pleasant evening.
You too.
You too. Panaki, whenever he calls up, it's always a great thing. He comes with that information.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, people. So moving on, because our topic for tonight, which is so apropos, why not join an organization? Why not to join an organization talking about black liberation?
Right.
But first we have to talk about who killed Malcolm X. It's a new docu-series playing on Netflix, right?
Okay.
So the first thing about the film, if you're a person who never knew anything about Malcolm X, the context is well laid out with the backstory of Malcolm X and how he came to be in the Nation of Islam, right? Abdul Rahim Muhammad lays out the facts of his one-man investigation and exposes the inept work on the NYPD's part to investigate and bring the true killers of Malcolm X to justice, right? Yeah. Number one, what's interesting about this? Number one, the lack of connectivity between the NYPD and the FBI, who had informants. The FBI had informants on the inside of the Audubon ballroom. They had informants on the inside that gave detailed descriptions of who they were looking for, right? Got to see this documentary.
Yeah. Great documentary.
It exposes once a racist, always a racist.
Right.
The cops interview who are still living still hold racist views.
Yeah.
The same type of racist views which kept them from solving the case. The same racist views back then, they still have
today.
And they still have them today as old people, right? It's the same type of racist thought process, in our opinion, that Bloomberg has, right? Remember, I talked about the minority classification for black people. In legal and in governmental law, a minority is someone who cannot take care of themselves. So Bloomberg talked about taking guns away from them, but who's going to protect us from the rowdy whites, right? Who's going to protect us, if we're a minority? But we've never been a minority because we built the boy, right? So Bloomberg says this, and we're going to listen to this real quick, and then we're going to continue, because this is a perfect example of how the police officers thought who investigated Malcolm X. And it's the same train of thought. Here we go.
They just keep saying, it's a disproportionate percentage of a particular ethnic group. That may be, but it's not a disproportionate percentage of those who witnesses and victims describe as committing the murder. In that case, incidentally, I think we disproportionately stop whites too much and minorities too little.
Former ESPN anchor Jamel Hill created kind of stir.
Let me flip that back up, right? So he said we disproportionately. Now that was a Trump plays the game real good. He's playing chess and everybody else is playing checkers. He gets up there and he talks about. He says, "Wow, Bloomberg is racist." That was.
He said, "You guys are calling me a racist, but
look at
he's
this guy.
really a racist."
This guy is on steroids, right? And so we want to shout out to Hollywood Unlocked, because they broke that video. The other audio that people have is so unclear, but they found this and they put this out. Shout out to Hollywood Unlocked, right?
Right.
So we just went through number 2. Race. It proves that the racism, once a racist, always a racist. Number 3, on Who Killed Malcolm X documentary. It shows how jealousy can lead to an act which has led to the degradation of American blacks, because killing the man, Malcolm X, actually stopped his work on behalf of American blacks. And it allowed others to take on positions in American black society that continue to stagnate the movement with empty platitudes and hamster wheel politics. Now, go back to our previous episodes and we talk about being on the hamster wheel and having to get off, right? Number 4, it shows like one of the earliest episodes of TFR talks about evil is relative. It's in the eyes of the beholder. We talked about this. I think it's going to be coming up on 2 years ago. But we talked about this. Evil is in the eyes of the beholder. And what do I mean by that? If a person does harm to a person like Malcolm and gets away with it, the person is seen as a folk hero in his community and lives a full life with an open secret talked amongst the community he lives in. So evil is in the eyes of the beholder, right? This is a must watch. It is more instructional and educational in many different ways. Who Killed Malcolm X docuseries on Netflix, right? So what did you think about the documentary?
I mean, first of all, after watching it, we said that the person that did the documentary, what is his name?
Abdur Rahim Muhammad.
He did an excellent job. We said that was the best docuseries that we've ever seen.
Because everything else was more sensationalized.
Right. He came with like facts, right? So fact after fact after fact. He had documentation. He went out. He did the leg work. I mean, it was just well done. And
for ESPN,
the way he built a case, the case was built, within this documentary, and just layer after layer, just like unraveling the layers from an onion. It's just like more and more and more. You learn more and more, and I'm just like watching it, and I couldn't believe that as high up as what the mayor's office in Jersey, they knew, and I'm like, okay, so if everyone knew,
the governor, wasn't that the assistant governor?
She was a
lieutenant governor, right? Yeah. She knew, but you know who didn't know? He's supposed to be a Newark native, but you know who he didn't know? Everyone knew. Everyone said, yeah, that's an open secret. Everybody knows. We talk about it all the time. You know who didn't know?
Well, Cory Booker was the only
person. He was the only person who didn't know.
In the city that didn't know.
I discovered this with Hillary Clinton. Right. When the politician opens their eyes real wide and they nodding, they lying to you.
And he got up and kind of
in my opinion.
He left. I think he walked off while the cameras was going.
But when they had their eyes real wide and they be like, in my opinion, they lying to you. Yeah, I know that with Hillary. Hillary would sit up there, yeah, and this and that, and her eyes be real wide, and he does the same. He did the same thing.
And he literally, he stood up and walked off while the cameras were still rolling.
And
he was clearly uncomfortable.
And he was the only one.
Well, the guy was in this video. Well, we don't want to give it away.
Right. Don't give it away. That's why I didn't go into any detail.
Okay, so we won't go into details. You have to watch.
But he's the only one in Newark, New Jersey who didn't know this guy.
You were interacting with the killer. But you didn't know. But everyone else around you knew.
You got to watch this.
You have to watch. Excellent documentary or docuseries. He did a great job.
So let's break this film down by numbers here.
Okay.
The many decades long research by Abdur Rahim Muhammad, that's a 10.
Okay.
The edit of the content into a non-sensational context, which holds the interest to binge watching. It holds you so long that you just want to binge watch all the episodes. That's a 10. The in-depth interview, modern day, cut with interviews over the years, that's a 10.
Yeah.
The new revelations brought forth, that's a 10.
Yeah.
The call for justice for the wrongfully accused, that's a 10.
Horrible. Yeah.
So what would you rate Who Killed Malcolm X?
Definitely a 10. I mean, because it was just well done. And it's like, I can't believe that, it's just like, all the people that knew, as well as the government,
Right.
records that they knew, and you have these innocent men
On basically
in prison
for all those years.
for a crime that it was known that they didn't commit, right? Because they said you'll see it, but the police said the feds wasn't talking to them, and
But
information wasn't being
But
passed.
they were talking to the feds every day. Feds was taking information, but they wasn't giving none.
So the feds knew that you knew who the killers, you know who they are, right? But then you also know that you have innocent men in prison for a crime that they didn't commit. And so the government knew, as well as people within that community.
But they were just minorities. It didn't matter. They were just quote unquote classified
Yeah,
as
because
minorities.
when you see that, fast forward and you see like you said, the interviews from the policemen, they still had that nonchalant attitude, and they're still smiling and laughing.
Why did you do that? You were supposed to just be an informant. Why did you do that after he was shot? You got to see this. You can't go into detail.
Crazy.
But who killed Malcolm X?
Excellent.
On a documentary, Abdul Rahman Muhammad, his years of dedication, all laid out, but it wasn't about him. It was about getting to get the justice for Malcolm X. And they said they may be opening the case back up because of the documentary. But I definitely give it a 10, which gets us, people, to why not to join an organization talking about black liberation. You should get a pencil and paper for this, because this is very in-depth and very important, right? So look, before we get into why not to join an organization talking about black liberation, we have to ask, what is black liberation theology? What is black liberation theology? Reverend James Cone is the founder of Black Liberation Theology.
Right.
It's rooted in the 1960s civil rights activism. It's inspired by both Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, but then that would mean that it's really inspired by what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was teaching in the Nation of Islam, because Malcolm was a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, right?
Right.
It sees God as concerned with the poor and the weak, right? It's an effort in a white dominant society where blacks are seen as evil, still today, to make the gospel relevant to life struggles of American blacks. Help American blacks love themselves. B, to teach people to be unapologetically black and Christian at the same time, right? It focuses on the condemnation of racist white action, subjugation of American blacks as evil acts, which will cause the destruction of the nation unless corrected. It calls on the compassionate mind of whites to do right, right? So translation, if only the whites would do right, then all would be forgiven and we could rub shoulders together. For just us, forget reparations. For just us, forget reparations. Photo ops all of the time. Being able to eat together with whites at the dinner table is good enough for American blacks, right? Because there's certain things when you look at it, like if you're a person and you're not breaking down words, right? Black liberation theology. What is it to be liberated, right? Nowhere in the theology is there true black liberation, and that's where many, when they hear the fiery black rhetoric, don't get what black liberation is actually about. And in the end, those who haven't researched what black liberation theology is all about run afoul of those who create black liberation theology organizations. You know, Dr. Carl Anderson, who has been pushing for reparations for quite some time,
Right.
he describes it as the orator
Right.
speaking truth to power on defense while ducking incoming bombardment.
Right.
Right? So
Right.
he's saying, you did this and we should do this, and while all that's happening, you're ducking, avoiding the hit that, you know, will come if too many people start to believe you, right?
Okay.
So, why not to join an organization talking black liberation? Okay. Not seeing the conformist nature in black liberation politics leaves the true believer in a bewilderment later in life. Like when they get 80 and 90, they say, like I talked to a guy at a function, he said that these people keep talking this.
Okay.
I'm 90 years old.
Okay.
And I'm not going to see this in my lifetime.
Right.
So it leaves them bewildered because they didn't
Right.
really realize what black liberation theology
Right.
or black liberation politics, the way it's
Right.
being practiced,
Right.
is about, right?
So really, your lifetime really is not what matters, because you fight for something. You're fighting for your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews. They may
Right.
see it, you know, in their lifetime.
No, we're fighting, but remember now, black liberation
Right.
theology is not
Right.
about black liberation. I'm gonna get to what it's really about, right? So let's
Right.
go back for a minute. They are bewildered when later in life they
Right.
find that there was nothing more than window dressing being changed, right? Why not to join organizations talking about black liberation? Number one. I had to give you the context,
Okay.
so now we can get into it, give you a little history of what black liberation politics is. Now remember I said conformist, and we're going to get to this.
Okay.
Number one, most organizations are not about black liberation. They are about black assimilation into the society.
Okay.
See in the Bible where, so they tell, now remember the premise is to appeal to the compassionate mind of whites.
Okay.
So they tell you in the Bible, and they'll say, see in the Bible where you will be cursed or your empire will fall like Rome if you don't treat us right. If you don't treat us right, your whole thing is gonna fall, and we're gonna be up there marching the army, or marching, stomping out the grapes of wrath. Okay. Number two. Every man and every woman thinks within varying degrees when talking or thinking concerning the American black plight.
Okay.
That variation, especially if you're dealing with the founder of an organization, can get you into hot water when you believe the rhetoric talk, the rhetorical talk, the
Right.
rhetoric, but the founder who founded the organization is really founded the organization for economic reasons. The documentary,
God forbid you shake the boat.
yeah, the documentary Who Killed Malcolm X
Right.
really illuminated, because it wasn't sensationalism. It really laid the story out, right?
Right.
So the
Great job.
Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which the black liberation theology actually comes from. They said Malcolm and Martin, but really it comes from one part because Malcolm was just a student, right? So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad founded the Nation of Islam much in the later coined black liberation theology model. He focused on how to eat to live.
In which so many, can we say, and we talk about this all the time, all of these different programs and diets have just basically took his everything that he has in his book and How to Eat to Live. All of these different weight loss programs and just different diets are just like all information stolen from his book. I mean, it's just
drinking paper, people, drinking paper. But anyway, so number 2. Knowing who you are, love self.
Right.
Knowing who the enemy is.
Right.
Self-respect, cleaning yourself up, and the most important piece, in our opinion, do for self, economic self-sustained business with blacks patronizing the black-owned businesses, right? Out of all the rhetoric, out of all the rhetorical out of all the rhetoric and all the rhetorical themes within the teachings, self-sustaining businesses with blacks loving themselves enough to patronize and open up various types of businesses is what Elijah Muhammad was focused on. Malcolm X, now this is truly through the documentary, but when you look at it, when someone has founded something and you come in and you become a champion of that, you have to really find out what you're championing for and stay on message on what the person is talking about. Malcolm focused on bringing the rhetorical truth, and though Elijah Muhammad stressed for Malcolm to slow down, Malcolm pressed forward. This is my opinion. This is my opinion that it jeopardized what Elijah Muhammad was building. He was building something where they talked about separation and building economic stability in communities and black communities where people were self-sustaining, loved each other, cleaned themselves up, boom, all those different things. And Malcolm was more about, just by looking at it, retribution to those who did harm, right? Number 3. The number 3 reason why not to join organization talking about black liberation. Niggas just jealous. Niggas just jealous if they perceive you elocute better or your clothes straight better. Women give you unwanted attention. You are the epitome of the word that you speak. They think you look better. They will be jealous of you. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's the way it is. It's the weak, feeble minds created during slavery, Willie Lynch, etc. You can't take Willie Lynch out of the brain of a Negro. Not really. Right? Me, I've never seen a nigga to be jealous of. Not a black man either, because I've never seen a white man, an Asian man, a Arab, or Hispanic to be jealous of. Even rich blacks display jealousy. So
this is from his letter.
And he can't.
Really?
So you really can't stop it. No, this is what I'm saying. This is my opinion. I'm saying I've seen. No, I haven't seen
it everywhere.
anybody.
Like whether it's the library, working in a library, working in a grocery store, or working in a hospital, working for the government. Just when dealing with all types of personalities.
Right.
You see it in families. You see it in friendships.
It's just
in all groups of people. In all groups.
It's like, it's
all communities.
It's all groups of people. It's in whites, Asians, but it's detrimental to us in particular because of the history that is a collective history that we share, right? Number 4, why not to join an organization talking about black liberation? Black liberation organizations are about assimilation, not liberation. Liberation has to do with physical war. None of the organizations talk that. And when the time comes, they are disarmed and allowed to have their rifles and pistols back with no ammo. But I thought you were about you having the right to get, but then they take, and then they hand it back, and you didn't. So why not to join an organization talking about black liberation? They are not about what one would think they are about. The definition of liberation, as we close this out so we can get to the movies, right? The act of setting someone free from enslavement, imprisonment, or oppression, release. how would you go about freeing someone from enslavement, imprisonment, or oppression, getting them or pushing to get them released, right? If you're talking about liberation, right?
Are we talking about mental enslavement as well?
No, we're talking about
because,
we're talking about physical. This is what liberation is. What we're talking about, right?
Right.
So enslavement, imprisonment, or oppression. How would you get them released?
Right.
If they're behind walls and stuff.
Right.
You know, I got a letter from the government.
Who was that? Was it months ago? A couple of months ago? Was it El Chapo's?
They broke him out. They had broke him out, but then they got him back. But they broke him out, right? But I got a letter from the government the other day, right? And then what about All I Wanna Be is a soldier, a soldier. Tupac, both of them had songs about that, right?
Right.
This is not what black liberation theology is about. Black assimilation organizations are what they should be called. Plus, they are full of spies, agents, undercover.
Okay.
So, people, that are the reasons why not to join an organization that's talking black liberation, because they're not really black liberation organizations.
And it's always infiltrated.
They are
all the time.
They
right?
are.
Like with the Black Panthers, they were infiltrated.
They were
There's
infiltrated.
always, and you know, as we saw in the documentary, right? I want to give it away. You have to watch
don't
it.
give it away.
Yeah, so just in every case,
there's something.
There's always an infiltration.
So it's really trying to get along. Quit beating me in my head, and all will be forgiven. That's really what black liberation theology is about, people. Okay, people. So the first film, we got 10 minutes. We're gonna get this all in. The Photograph, starring Issa Rae as May, Lakeith Stanfield as Michael Block, Tiana Paris. They didn't have her name. Somebody did very poor work on the IMDb page. They did not list these names. Little Rel Howie, I don't know who he played. Courtney B. Vance played the father. Yolan Noel, you know him from the first Purge. They didn't have his name up there. And then Rob Morgan is Isaac Jefferson. It's about a woman rediscovering her mother through a letter left with a photograph, while a reporter Photog finds interest in the same woman after a chance meeting with a love from her past, right? It's in 2,516 theaters. It's estimated to have made 12 million to 15 million. It cost 16 million to produce, so they're on pace to be a success. Go out there and see this film. We had told you that already, right?
Great film.
Great film.
Great
okay.
Film.
So what did you think about the film?
I mean, the film was like well written. The acting was great. The music was great. The cinematography, beautiful as well. I mean, definitely like one of the best films that I have seen. It's like on that list of best films that you've ever seen. It's like up there. I mean, because I don't know. It was just, I mean, I've seen many other, I've seen The Notebook, which was good. Love and Basketball was good. What's the other film that's really good also with the soundtrack with Lorenz Tate and
Love Jones.
Love Jones, which is also a good film, right? Those films are really good films. The Photograph, that film was just beautiful. And what I loved about it is, although there were like other characters in their world, I loved how it really just like zoned in on those two, right? And you know it's a good film when the movie ends, but it's just like really there's more of a story to be told. Yeah. And then you're, and because I was talking, me and my cousin, we talked about it, and like in this film, it's like you want to know, okay, well, what happened? I'm not gonna give the film away. Okay, so what happened with them? Moving forward, right? So, I mean, it's the film. We said it in the theater. I said, wow, where's the part 2?
Right.
I need a part 2. I need this to be like a mini series or something because I want to know how it turns out, right? So, I mean, just well done. Because anytime you're talking about the film afterwards, like in the theater, matter of fact, people left out smiling and was happy. The energy was really great. I mean, it's just, people love this film. I mean, it was just a different energy than in
totally different
some of the other films that we saw this year, right? Mm-hmm. This film is a love story.
It's a love story.
Just period. And the music is just great, and it's just perfect, right? And you know what? Let me see. The person that did the music, when I saw his name, I wasn't surprised, right? Because he does a great job. Like, his music is great. Like, with Robert, I'm going to look it up, but I believe it's Robert, is it Glasper? And when I saw his name, when they wrote the credits, I said, okay, I'm not surprised. Because, like, his music is great. So what he did to the soundtrack, Robert Glasper.
Yeah, so, the soundtrack, you have to get
He did a beautiful job.
It's like, if you like Love Jones, you will love this soundtrack, right? Yeah. So let's break this down by numbers.
Okay.
Use of color.
Okay.
Camera movement. Cinematography. Right. It's a 10. The way they cut from photographs to live action and let me continue.
I mean, it's just beautiful. I mean, because speaking of the photographs, and not because the film is called The Photograph, if you love art and artwork, you're gonna really love this film because it's like a combination. It's artistic as well as a love story, and it's all meshed together on film. This is just like moving art. This movie. Go ahead.
The storyline, through line is a 10. The use of flashback to real time, that's 10.
Right.
The intercutting of plot, making the past storyline present, beautifully done, that's a 10.
Yeah.
Character development and arcing, 10. Yeah. The pacing of the movie.
Great.
The pacing of the movie, though it wasn't an action movie, but the pacing of it is great. That's 10.
It's so great. I'm like, the movie ended. I mean, it's just like you wanted more. The writer is Stella Maggie. Mm-hmm. And we have to definitely give props to her because she did a great job. Mm-hmm. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
The supporting characters.
Right.
The children. There's a scene with the children that you have to see that it really sets the film up, right? Yeah. That's a 10. So what would you give the photograph?
I would definitely give it a 10 across the board. You know, everything you said and from, what I said. But I mean, when we saw the cast, right? Mm-hmm. So Issa Rae, we love her on Insecure, right? Mm-hmm. And then Lakeith Stanfield, just about, I don't know, I feel like every movie he's been in, we've reviewed. Yeah. So he does a great job in selected films. Mm-hmm. Is it Yolande Noel?
Yolande
also,
Noel.
We reviewed
him from The Purge.
Reviewed his film on Insecure. So his acting is great. So we're familiar with him. And then Calvin Harris Jr., right? Mm-hmm. From The Wave, and what's the other movie that he's in? We talked about he did a great job with Octavia Spencer. Is it Loose?
Loose. Yeah.
Loose.
Yeah.
And Wave. I mean, so we talked about him being a great with a breakout star. And the cast, and is it Tiona Paris?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And then we know her from LeBron's show that was Survivor's Remorse. As well as she was in Spike Lee's film, is it Chirac. As well as she's done a lot of work, and she's a great actress as well. Little Rio, we know him. He's a funny comedian. We know him from Get Out as well as like a lot of other stuff.
And in this film cross sections a lot of people like like Spike Lee's people,
right?
Glover's people.
Yep. Yeah.
Issa Rae's people.
Right.
So it's like a mixture.
Jordan Peele's
people. So all of them are coming together for this film and working together. It's good. It's not like it's sectioned off like it was in the 90s.
And then you have like great actors like Rob Morgan, right?
Right.
Courtney B. Vance.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so just a great cast. And then Jasmine Cephas Jones, I know her from the show on it's on Showtime, and I can't think of the name of the show. And it's it's on HBO. I can't think of the name of the show now. And but yeah, she's a good actress too. And then Shantae Adams killed it as Christine in this film.
She was good.
She was really good. So I mean, it was just a great cast, just put them all together.
So you gave it a 10?
I gave it a 10. So kudos to Will Packer.
Yeah, Will Packer. Yeah. That's a 10. Go see the photograph. Okay, people, moving on. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with the Blumhouse Fantasy Island. Yeah. Right? First, the twists and turns in this film. It is the best reimagining of an established brand I've seen. Right. Staying true to the folklore and mythos of Fantasy Island while bringing a multicultural advance to what we see on the screen. Because Ricardo Montalban used many of his friends from old Hollywood, right? He used Caucasians, helping them to be relevant coming from the 40s into the 80s. The 80s were like the late 30s, 40s, 50s replay. Right. It played out in fashion.
And every now and then you would get a black person, right? Every blue moon, right?
But it played out what was in fashion on television. I was getting ready to say they had Sammy Davis Jr. He appeared a couple of times.
Was Lola Falana on there too?
I don't recall.
I remember seeing her on there.
I don't recall. Casting of Blumhouse's Fantasy Island. Yeah. Michael Pena as Mr. Rourke.
Yes.
Parisa Fitz-Henley as Julia. That's Mr. Rourke's assistant.
Right. Okay.
Jeria Ben is Lila. Okay. She's the daughter of Robbie Jones, who plays Rockland, and Margaret D. Quinley as Elena, right? Okay. Portia Doubleday as Sonia, Jimmy O. Yang as Brax Weaver, Ryan Henson as Bradley. I can't read my writing.
Maggie Q.
Lucy Hale as Melina, Austin Starwell as Randall, and Michael Rooker as Morgan. He is, if you know him from Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, he played the person hunting down the main ship's captain, right?
Yeah.
And then Kim Coates as Devilface. Right? So the synopsis: 5 excited guests to Fantasy Island arrive having won a contest to win a trip to Fantasy Island. It's more like they are chosen to be on Fantasy Island, right? They are introduced to Mr. Rourke.
Which is a twist.
The ground rules are set and the Fantasy Island beginning, the fantasies begin. The pacing of the film, because it's an established brand, the film takes no time in revving up the story, which begins festive but soon turns pale underbelly as each fantasy shifts to the unknown. Right?
Yeah.
So this is a film. So we've seen some great films over the Valentine's Day weekend, but character arcing 10, twists and turns 10, pacing no doldrums 10, utilization of the folklore 10, quick context establishment, action sequences 10, the connective tissue between guests to the island 10, secrets of the island exposed for the audience 10, edits in the Edison the real time on the screen between reality and fantasy world, 10. Cinematography, 10. Camera movement, 10. Use of color and lighting, 10. Special effects, makeup, 10. Blumhouse's Fantasy Island, what would you rate?
I would definitely give it a 10 across the board. Like, I agree with everything you said. And I love how they stayed true to the Fantasy Island. It's the television show.
Mm-hmm.
And
while bringing it forward. And then, can I say, like, during the trailer, the audience, like, this was like what did they start showing us? Maybe it was in the fall, or maybe during the summer last year. No, I think it was fall.
Was in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the audience was so excited because most people grew up watching Fantasy Island and really liked the show. So in the theater was packed. People were excited and invested, and Blumhouse did not disappoint at all. Great film.
Came out and asked the guy, I said, how did you like it? He liked it. I said, how you like it compared to the original? I said, he never saw the original. He was in his 30s. Yeah. I said, well, the original, they are all Caucasian, so this is definitely an advance. Anyway, I give it a 10. Yeah. Yes, sir. So moving right along, people, to our last review of the night. Yes. This has been a jam-packed show. I promised you that it would be a jam-packed show. Yeah. And the last film for the review tonight, because we've seen great films, and this is no different whatsoever. Sonic the Hedgehog. Yes. First off, again, a multicultural cast representing the fanship of Sonic the Hedgehog. Cast: Ben Schwartz, he's the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog. Tika Sumpter as Maddie Wachowski. Right. James Marsden as Tom Wachowski. Jim Carrey as Dr. Ivo Robotnik. Natasha Rothwell as Rachel. And Melody Nospio Neiman. I'm just going to say Melody Neiman as JoJo, right? Sonic is by himself on Earth. This is a synopsis. But through years of observation, he's come to see the Wachowskis as family. A moment of sadness and frustration causes all to meet, and the movie kicks off from there. Right? Sonic is hilarious. It is hilarious. It is a laugh, almost a second. It wouldn't be the movie it is without Jim Carrey's Dr. Ivo Robotnik. The villain is ample. The villain is ample work for Schwartz, quick wit Sonic. Right? Carrey's ability to play opposite CGI. And with it appears no difficulty playing opposite Tika Sumpter and James Marsden. Makes Sonic the Hedgehog movie what it is. Let me tell you something. Without Jim Carrey playing this role,
he killed it.
We don't know what Sonic the Hedgehog. It was funny because Sonic had personality.
Yeah, he did.
All the characters had personality. But it was Jim Carrey that carried the movie. Right? Playing opposite, so you have to give kudos to him, right? So let's break this down by the numbers. CGI green screen 10, right? Storyline plot through line 10, arc of characters 10, the hilariousness of the film 10, the believability of the movie 10, pacing no doldrums 10, pure entertainment value 10, multicultural movie meter. It's a 10.
Yeah, I would give it a 10 too, across the board. Well done. I mean, the audience was cracking up. You had adults, you had children, loved this film. They did an excellent job.
Oh yeah.
So definitely go see Sonic, and you don't even have to have children to go see this film because it's just hilarious from beginning to end.
From beginning to end, right? Man, let me tell you. So that's 3 great movies to see. During the week this weekend coming up.
Yeah, to have 3 great films. Valentine's Day weekend. So they brought it.
Don't forget, people, we have the film review t-shirts. Let me bring this over, right? Become a member of the film review. You can go right on to lordlandfilms.com. That's lordlandfilms.com, and you can learn how to become a member of the film review. The t-shirt will get out to you faster than you think, and you will become a member, and you will be kept on information, events, all that, as we kick that into full gear, right? And then let me say this real quick. Let me move that over because we're running out of time. Don't forget to watch and listen to all of the music review shows, right? And we also released the volume 1 of DJ Routine show, right? So this has been another great episode of the Film Review, movies, music, culture, politics, and society. We are the husband and wife team. I'm Crazy D.
I'm Tracy.
And we review movies, music, culture, politics, and society. And we will see you next time on the Film Review. Yeah.
The Film Review, movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast, interviews, movie reviews, and more. Live Sundays at 5:30 p.m. on Facebook at Crazon Dion.
Hey everybody, this is Lunell, the original bad girl of comedy. I'm here at the Link Promenade in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, and you're watching the Film Review.